Okay, welcome to Module 3, Adaptive Behaviour. Today we're going to talk a little bit about building rapport and why that's important to adaptive behaviour, perception and reality, unconscious bias and diversity. That's a lot of things to cover, so we're just going to cover them in a little bit of information, and you'll actually find in the watch section and in the read section there's some more information if you want to dive into things a little bit deeper. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is building rapport. And if you happen to have done the module before around Change EQ, you'll know that we talked about the ability to have social awareness and relationship management was really important to managing yourself through change. So building rapport is just a technique around relationship management and building relationships. So your ability to actually connect with people and build trust straight away means that things are a lot easier for you when you're actually trying to adapt your behaviour or get someone to adapt their behaviour and different ways of doing things. Okay, so some of the really easy ways that you can build rapport with people, so some really quick techniques from me. Use people's names. So when you meet someone for the first time, Dale Carnegie, one of the original inceptions of management theorists, basically said the sweetest sound in the English language is somebody's name. So when you first meet somebody, use their name a couple of times. If you're in a culture where it's acceptable, make sure you look someone in the eye, shake their hand, smile. So do things like that. If you're meeting someone for the first time and you know something that they might like, it might be rugby or AFL or they've got kids, take the time to actually get to understand them on a personal level and ask questions around it. So the ability to do these things and actually build rapport can really help us when we're trying to create a deeper relationship and then have to either get them to flex their behaviours or having to flex our own behaviours. Having a great place of mutual trust and having had that ability to build rapport can really help us in that situation. And lastly, around building rapport, I want you to think a little bit like it's almost like a mirror model where you're actually looking to actually match what's going on for someone else. So notice other people's body language, the tone of voice, the pace with which they speak. And I've talked to you about, if you've seen the Change EQ module, a little bit around empathy. Empathy is also really important here. So actually taking the time to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand what they might be going through and really practice active listening skills. So again, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so using them in that ratio. So really taking the time to actually listen to someone can help you build rapport. The next thing I want you to think about with adaptive behaviours is perception versus reality. So one of the things that we can do when we get kind of fixed in our behaviour is that we think how we're seeing the world is how everybody else sees the world, right? So we get really focused that our perception of a situation is actually what happened. And in actual fact, and certainly police detectives will talk about this quite a bit, when you sit a bunch of people down that might have witnessed a crime or been part of a crime scene, you'll actually find that every one of them is remembering that situation in a really different way, because we do have all of these filters and distortions inside us that mean that we notice different things. So our conscious mind notices different things, our subconscious mind notices different things. We might have experienced something before, so we pull all that into it. But effectively, the perception that we have and the reality someone else might have can be completely different. I remember this actually talking with my sister some time back, and we were talking about something that happened when we were younger, and we just had a completely different memory around how it happened. So if you'd sat the two of us down, we'd had a completely different perception around what was going on. So what I want you to think about with adaptive behaviours is, what's my perception and somebody else's perception or their reality? So the ability to adapt and flex is actually about my ability to understand somebody else might have seen that situation a little bit differently, and if I took their lens, if I adapted the way I thought about it to the way they thought about it, actually maybe we're going to have a different outcome here. Maybe we'd have a better outcome here. So starting to really think about perception versus reality in different people's minds. I just want to touch really quickly then on unconscious bias. So this is another one of these situations where we can have really fixed beliefs around particular people from different groups in society, or different perceptions even about ourselves and stuff like that. We all have unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is effectively that our brain has to absorb all of this information, and particularly our subconscious mind, it likes to categorize things, and it says that thing is like that thing that happened before, or that person's like that person that I met before. So I categorize that because it feels comfortable and it feels like a great organized way to do things. So the subconscious mind does that from a really helpful place, but what can actually happen is you develop all these biases is because of the information that you've been exposed to. And look, most of you have probably seen a lot of the research around this, right? Literally just the classic example of the male-female bias, where you've got the same CV and you put a female's name on it versus a male's name on it, and people have completely different reactions around that person's salary, worth, position in society, all that sort of stuff. So there's a heap of research that's been done. There's another clip you can actually watch around unconscious bias, so you can have a bit of a look. But the reality is, again, when you're thinking about adaptive behaviour, one of the key things is to actually uncover what are the unconscious biases that you might have, right? So that's actually going to be the focus for the week. What I want you to do is start to jot down different things that different perceptions you might hold about groups. It might be about women versus men, it might be people from different religious backgrounds, people from different ethnic backgrounds, people from different upbringings, even different organisations. So you might have a bias if you're in a bank, for example, about people that work in banks versus government versus pharmaceuticals. So you can have biases around a whole lot of things. So your activity for this week is to sit down, and it's great to do it in a team or with someone else, and actually start to think about the things that you hold biases about that are really limiting your ability to adapt your behaviour, because you're actually shutting yourself off from opportunities or shutting yourself off from understanding other people's perspectives. So have some fun, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.